as of right now, the police won't say, but Tony Jacobs is going to say. This man right here, his name is Otis Lee Tucker.
This was the last known place that my daughter was seen. I know he knows something.
He was convicted of another crime in that house, strangulation of a woman, abduction. The girl was tied to this bed.
Like a week before Keeshae, and y'all still didn't take it serious? If you would have took it serious, my daughter probably would have been here.
Otis had a long history of being violent.
He could snap in a minute.
He is a predator.
We got a trail of victims here.
Probably about 8 years old, he cut a girl with a knife.
His rage, it was insane.
There's so many twists and turns in this thing.
When he was ready to confess, once he started rolling, he spilled it out.
Got some snips and a hacksaw and cut her up.
Didn't nobody listen to me. I knew it. I've been saying it from day one. 9 years, not knowing where my baby was at. And now there's another innocent life gone.
It was just disturbing to all of us. It's one of those things that I don't think I'll ever forget.
Wrapping the HDMI cord around her neck and hitting her with the back of a hammer.
He should have never been allowed to come to Florida. My daughter would be here if it wasn't for Virginia.
A 13-year-old did not kill my brother. And then to find out that the Philadelphia police don't want to do nothing about it is even more insane.
Otis used to always tell me, he come in this house, I'ma kill him.
If they would have caught him in Philadelphia, those 2 other girls would still be here.
Something about his eyes, the way that he looks.
Like he didn't have a soul.
Do you reflect on this and say, man, I created a monster?
You should have not been out. Monsters like this cannot slip through the cracks like this multiple times.
I relied on the system, and the system let me down.
Somebody has to stop and care and know that these are people's children. These aren't names on a piece of paper. They're not statistics.
Well, she did what Virginia refused to do, and she caught a killer, so ultimate sacrifice.
How did it happen? How did Otis Lee Tucker fall through the cracks, given his history of violent rage dating back to his elementary school years? How was he allowed to continue his predatory ways, leaving a trail of victims up and down the East Coast? I'm John Burkett. In this Reopen the Case documentary, we'll travel through 4 states, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Florida, and right here in Virginia, uncovering horrific encounters and systemic failures. Our involvement in this story began in 2016 right here in Richmond, Virginia, with a mother's unyielding fight to find out what happened to her daughter and a man she believed was involved from the beginning. That led us to uncovering his criminal past, starting when he was just 8 years old, continuing as a teen in Chesapeake when he was convicted of a sex crime, then moving to Philadelphia and his possible involvement in a roommate's murder. From there, an arrest for rape and abduction right here in Richmond. And 1 week later, Keeshae Jacobs disappeared from the same house on Broad Street. 6 years later, a Florida family's heartbreak, a young mother brutally murdered, becoming the ultimate sacrifice, and sealing the fate of the obvious suspect. Candace, neighbors say police searched this park yesterday afternoon. This is an area close to where 21-year-old Keeshae Jacobs was last seen, a woman who is close to her family. They haven't heard from her in more than 10 days. I first heard about the case when I got a phone call from Tony Jacobs, and that's Keeshae's mother. She came to the media about 2 days later, so September 28th of 2016, and said she needed help finding her missing daughter. She was 21 at the time she went missing. She was last seen at a house on Broad Street, September 26th of 2016.
So Wednesday came. That evening, I'm sitting in my living room with my son and a couple of my friends, and I get a knock on the door. It's Keeshae friends, the guy DeMarcus who dropped her off at the house. On Broad Street. And a couple other friends. So I said it was like 5 or 6 of them. Then they proceeded to tell me that, hey, we went to the house that we dropped Keeshae off at. And the guy said that she wasn't there. I was like, so you did what? What house is this? So I was very upset and was like, take me to this house. So I made them show me exactly where this house was, which was like maybe a few hours after they had already been to this home. So I was furious because that guy could have had enough time to do anything he wanted to do with my daughter.
Tony went to that house in Churchill. She was able to speak to a guy that said his name was Omar. She asked him questions about her daughter. He was giving her a timeline that didn't make sense. She was increasingly getting more angry about why he couldn't provide where her daughter was. So we can confirm she called dispatch and told them that this story wasn't adding up. After Tony Jacobs called 911, officers were dispatched to that Churchill location. But kind of crazy enough, afterwards, I don't know how much time had passed, but Otis picked up the phone and called Detective Hughes, who was at that location a week prior investigating Otis for a rape and abduction.
When I talked to Detective Hughes, he told me what his name was, and I was like, okay, why are you here? He was like, I'm investigating him on another case, and Otis called me. I was like, By then, the police that I called, 911, like 3 or 4 cars shows up. He said something to them. He was like, so the police was like, well, let us walk through the house and see. So Hughes said he trusts me and told the other police officers to wait right here. And he walked, I don't know where he walked. He wasn't in the house long. And then he walked out. I don't see no sign of your daughter.
It was October 3rd, 2016 is when we first saw forensic vans at that home in Churchill.
Right here is where the carpet was found. So this carpet was from Otis's upstairs bedroom. So this is a blue carpet. So this carpet was found next to 305 North 31st Street. And so it's right here behind this mattress up against the building. It shows this highlighted area here, this lighted area, shows that there was bodily fluid present. It was later determined to be blood that belonged to Keeshae Jacobs.
After a few days, and definitely after the search of the residence, finding the rug, the blanket, and the cushion, which also had DNA on it, I felt we were strong then. Everything else I thought was helping the case further. So when Otis fled to Maryland and we went to the Baltimore County Police Department, met with their investigations unit, they helped us 110%, helped us do the warrants for the house that he was in, search warrants for the house, and then when we went in, there was a bag that was Otis's, and inside that bag there were several cell phones, and there was a flyer of one of the missing persons papers that the Jacobs family had been hanging out on Chimborazo Park area. That was in his bag too. And when I saw that, I'm like, you know, that's a trophy, and that's why he kept it. On one of the SIM cards in the phone, it had a lot of pictures of Keeshae and her family. But I know that they were when Keeshae looked younger with family members, and Otis didn't have that type of relationship with Keeshae. And through messages between Keeshae and Otis and one of Keeshae's friends, and I can't recall her name, Otis was very interested in Keeshae. Would ask the friend, talk to Keeshae about me. You and Keeshae, why don't y'all come over to the house? Hey, will you put in like basically a good word for me? Keeshae's very attractive.
So when I first start off interviews, I normally ask you spell your first and last name, but we're not doing that today.
Okay.
Can you tell us why?
Don't see a need for it. It's not about me. It was about my son. It's not something I want to represent. I tend to keep to myself now you know, because I really don't want to talk to anybody about it, you know. People, oh yeah, I heard of you, yeah. I don't want to talk about that. That's nothing to be proud of, you know. He was 4.5 years old when I received him. I think his mind was set the way it was running, regardless of what I could do, you know. I think that had a lot to do with his mother. It's your child. You need to raise him. He need to be with your kind. I don't want to see him no more. That did something to Otis. I want to say 8 years old. He was getting out of school, coming home, and evidently he cut a girl in the park coming home. That was the first time he got locked up for that, and he went to jail for that. You know, juvenile jail, and he was in there for a while for that. Then they finally let him out. And wow. I mean, this with this girl wasn't the first time. I say it had to be at least 5 or 6 times out there.
We were able to find out that Otis did have a prior rape case in Chesapeake when he was a teenager. The victim in that case did talk with our producers, and she told us she believed she was 14 at the time, and after it happened, she ran from the house to a nearby 7-Eleven. And then the story takes a twist where our crews head to Philadelphia, where they talk to the family of Raquel Glenn and find out he was dismembered, decapitated, and stuffed in storage bins.
So Raquel was the first grandchild born to my mother. So my sister was a teenage mom. And when we first found out she was pregnant, it was like a big thing.
I treated my nephew like he was my son, because his dad wasn't around.
He called me his Aunt Sabrina. He didn't know where his mother was. As far as I know, she was incarcerated. We just showed him love.
He had pretty hair, he had big ears, he was cute. And everybody just loved him.
And you are?
Raquel's sister. It is 4 of us. Growing up, I didn't grow up with my mom. My mom was on drugs. Somehow it got reported that they was left in an abandoned house in Parkside. And from my understanding of the story that my mom told me, they found the kids. My sister was nowhere to be found. So they was gonna instantly put them in the system. Now my mom at the time, she was on drugs too, but for her grandkids, she got clean, she went into the shelter, and she did everything she was supposed to do to get them kids, because she didn't want them to be separated, and she wanted them to be raised together. I was left with a family friend, but my brothers and sisters were with my grandma. And when my grandma passed, they all went into the system.
He didn't have any contact with his mother for years because of her background with drugs and other things. So that kind of separated the family at that time, and he lost touch with sister and uncles and aunts and everybody else.
He was friends with my kids. He got put out, and then he stayed with this other foster lady up the street from me. He got put out her house, and he had no place to go. No relationship with his family. So I brought him into my house. You know, he lived with us for quite some time.
The last time I seen my nephew, he was at Murray's, coming out of Murray's on 22nd Street. And me and him got to talking, and that's when he first told me, I was like, what you doing? He's like, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna be a mortician. I'm like, you gonna be a mortician? You know you gotta work with dead bodies. That's what I wanna do. I'm like, all right, do you? You can make some money, because there's always dead people.
All right, Miss Sabrina, who are you to Otis?
His cousin, his first cousin.
We learned that Otis went to Philadelphia to live with his cousins because he told them he wanted a fresh start.
So, be as though he didn't know his dad's side of the family, he didn't know me and my kids like that. Besides my oldest son, you know, we got love. Come be with your family. Told him to come to Philly, and he came. And he stayed with me during that period of time or whatever.
My mom, she became sober. So when she got released out of prison, she asked she wanted to get all her kids together to see them all together. So he was like, well, let's find Rock. Let's find Rock and see where Rock's at.
And when Otis came, for some reason or another, Otis didn't like him. I don't know why, but he didn't ever like him. Like, he was never one of the ones that would come and start to try to bully Otis or start, because he was too timid. He was scary. He wasn't into doing that stuff. He tried to stay away. And there's been times that I came in the house, Otis done pushed him down the steps. He pushed him down the steps. He's standing on him on the landing, tell him he ain't heard. I'm like, get off of him. I kept trying to back Otis up, back up off of him. Leave that boy alone. He don't need to be in here. Why not? You in here. But he didn't want him coming back into the house. And like I told him, Otis, this is not your house. This is my mother's house, my house. And Otis used to always tell me, he come in this house, I'm gonna kill him. I'm not playing, I'm gonna kill this boy.
Otis's family would ask him if he knew where Raquel was, and Otis would come up with stories that Raquel was in jail and that he hadn't seen her.
Everybody believed him because he was known for getting locked up for little petty stuff. But then once they got the phone call saying, my grandma called us saying that they found a body in the basement, I went inside with the cops and we went down to the basement. And I was trying to see, I'm like, I don't see it. And they like, there you go, right there, like you see his leg and stuff sticking out the container. And then I guess later on that day, we wound up going to the police station and they showed me the pictures. I knew it was him because his braces and his braids. But I seen mostly skull. And his body was like so decomposed. It was traumatizing.
And one day I'm at my job and I get a phone call and the person asks, can I speak to Doretha Glenn? And I'm like, speaking. And he told me he was from the medical examiner's office, but because he said he had information about my nephew, I think I just didn't hear it. And he said, I have information about your nephew, Raquel Glenn. And I got happy because I hadn't heard anything in years. But when he said what he said, like, I broke down. I hung up on the man. Now, I remember hearing the story on the news about them finding the body in North Philadelphia, and the person who was remodeling the house found the body. And that's how the cops got called. I'm like, damn, I feel really bad for that family. Like, that's sad, not knowing I'm feeling bad for my own family. So me and my mom and my aunt went to the Philadelphia Homicide Division to see, because we never knew what really happened to Rock. So it was two detectives there, and they were explaining to us that they had a full confession from a 13-year-old. This 13-year-old had told them that him and Rock were arguing or fighting over a white t-shirt, and that he had hit Rock in the back of his head with a pole or a pipe. And Rock fell and he dragged my brother, who was 22 at the time, down the basement and cut his body up. At that time, my mom just wanted to see her son, the pictures of her son. And the detective was like, no, I can't let you see this. And my mom straight snatched it out his hand. When she was looking in the pictures, we seen a picture of my brother like put together on the examiner's table. His head was disconnected, his torso, his arms, and his knees. And he was like laid out, put together. And then the next photo was the crime scene photo of actually how they found him. He was in a blue storage bin, and like his hand and stuff was hanging out the storage bin, but the top was on the storage bin. And it was a bunch of bugs, like black bugs. You've seen black bugs. And the last picture is the one that I will never get out my head. There was a hole in the back of my brother's head on this side. It was so big you could put your fist in it. and his hair was still connected to his skull. And then my mom just broke down. I remember me asking them, can I see this 13-year-old? And I remember them showing me a picture of like a little short, stubby little boy. And I remember me saying to the detective, that little boy did not do this by himself. He could not have did this.
So for them to say that he did something like that, murder anybody, no, he wouldn't even harm an animal, let alone a person, let alone somebody that's close to us. We call Rock our brother.
A relative told us that the Tucker family in Philadelphia convinced someone, a younger teenager in their family, to take the rap for the killing of Raquel because they were sure he was going to get lesser of a sentence if he did so. But the mom and sister of that teen want to clear his name. They don't believe that their loved one was involved. They believe Otis had something to do with it.
Before he left to go, he said he was leaving Philly. He was going back to Virginia. And I didn't understand why he seemed like he was in a rush. His eyes was all big. He looked like something was going on. You brought the machete to me that night, I remember. And I don't understand how this trial went on, and they didn't have no evidence. Only thing they had was my son coming in and out the house. That was it. They didn't even have a murder weapon. And how I know that they didn't have the machete is because I gave it to my daughter, friend, so he can clean it and sharpen it up for me and stuff. But his van got taken and the machete was in the van and it was gone.
What's going to happen to her? Nothing? So she allowed to keep evidence?
It's just crazy. And for the cops not to investigate, like, did you ask the little boy how you cut him up? What did you use? Where's the machete?
The teen that took the rap for Raquel's death had just turned 15. His name was Richard Tucker. He did go to juvie and serve time for the murder until he was 21 years old. And several months after he got out, he was killed too. And his murder remains unsolved in Philly.
It wasn't family that was trying to persuade him to take no blame for nothing. It was the other ones, the friends.
Before he was convicted, did anybody say that Otis did it? Was anybody trying to tell?
I did.
You did.
And
I did. Yes,
so
we did. Nobody wanted to listen to me.
Yeah, I said the same way he died is the same way he got into that fight. It's like me seeing it without being there.
The Glenn family tells us they're upset because they had no idea that Raquel's killer had ever been caught. They never knew that Richie served time. And they didn't find this information out until Reopen the Case called them.
The right person needs to be charged for this murder, not just the person that said they did it and now we know they didn't do it.
Our producer did reach out to police. They told us that, hey, somebody's been convicted for this. It's not a case we're looking into, and we still haven't received a call back.
I know the outcome of that case. I know he walked on that case. Do I feel comfortable that...
Do you feel comfortable that he was not involved in that case?
Now, a family member wound up taking the heat for that, and I don't think that was right.
It is important to note that Otis Tucker was never charged or officially a suspect in Raquel's murder. We did come across another victim, Romani Shabazz. She is the one that I've told our producers, I think she's the one that got away.
When I look in your eyes, you make me so crazy. And I want you to know how much you're meaning to
You all refer to him as Otis, but I've always known him as Omar. I will say, like, he was very charming, bought me flowers, you know. I had gotten on dating website, and it just so happened Otis was on the website. And we both shared a couple of things in common, but one of them being that we went to the same high school. And so I was like, jogging my memory, and I was like, okay, I do vaguely remember him, but I don't remember seeing much of him because as far as I knew, he was like in an alternative school. So They were in a completely separate school than we were, but they were still part of our class. So I was like, okay, I vaguely remember who you are. And so it just so happened he was like, well, I'm in Richmond as well as you. And so that's how we connected, or reconnected, really.
She said at the beginning of the relationship that Otis was very charming. And it wasn't until later in the relationship where she discovered that he had an anger problem.
He asked me to take him home one night from his job. And okay, great, I'll take you home. Only to find out his home was a halfway house. And I was like, wait a minute, what is this? And then he lets me know, oh, I just got out of jail. And I didn't necessarily pry, but I was like, for what, you know? And he was like, oh, it was for like beating up somebody, something, you know, nothing against women or anything like that. So I was like, okay, I'm just kind of shocked that you wouldn't lead with that, but okay, still very charming, very kind.
Romani was comfortable enough with Otis Tucker to bring her young son around him and often dropped him off at a house on Stockton Street where there were some babysitting services. And then she tells a story of one night going to pick up her son. She put him in the car and Otis and her got into a disagreement.
It wasn't until my mom kind of stepped in, and honestly, that was one of the biggest red flags for me when she met him. And she was like, it's something about him. It's something in his eyes, Monty. I don't like it. And that's when, as a mom too, I was like, if my mom feels that way, that was the only time I've ever genuinely understood my mother being scared and my maternal instinct kicking in at that point.
How was he with your son?
Very careful, very kind. Like I said, he didn't show anything that worried me until he did. And that's when I was like, pump the brakes immediately. When that happened, that was where he crossed the line with me.
And what is that? What's that instance you're speaking of?
One evening, we had gotten into a very, very bad argument. I don't remember the specifics, but it was evening time. I picked my son up. I just picked my son up, and we were outside of the house on Stockton arguing. And it got so intense, his rage, I had never seen that in anybody that I have ever known. It was terrifying. And I was like, my son was in the back seat witnessing this level of yelling and anger and rage. It was terrifying. And that man grabbed my car door. This was a brand new car I had just gotten. And he proceeds to damn near rip that door off of the car with his bare hands. I had never seen him.
It was almost like it had happened 2 days before we did the interview. It was fresh in her mind, and it's been over 10 years, and it was still fresh. She was shaking, she was nervous, she was crying.
I was so scared. I called the cops. I was like, absolutely, because I could barely get in the car and close the door back because it was barely shutting because it was almost ripped. It was bent. So I get it closed and lock it and call the police, and he takes off running. And then the Richmond police are out there on a manhunt in that neighborhood, in that shopping center, looking for this man. And that's when I knew, oh, this is the problem. I reached out to his family, and they were like, ma'am, we've been through a lot with him. And then here we go with more red flags. What else?
Do you consider yourself the one that luckily got away?
I do. It is sad. It's sad.
The rape victim that happened a week prior to Keeshae's disappearance was actually a co-worker of Otis's at a pizza shop in Richmond. And she wanted to get her story out. She said that several times, but shortly after asking for that interview, she unfortunately passed away. Of course, we're not mentioning her name because she is a victim. She told producers that Otis and her would go back to that home on Broad Street, sometimes dabble with drugs and have sex. She said something that triggered Otis, and he began fist fighting her in that house on Broad Street. That's where he picked up the charges of strangulation, rape, abduction. She told us that he tied her up, and when she was able to get free 9 hours later, she ran down to the police and asked for help.
But yeah, his name was Otis Tucker. I just recently found out he was in Florida. My most concern at this point is him doing it to somebody else, or by the time the Commonwealth attorney decide to press charges or do what they need to do, he's gonna run.
Some people call her Little Sonya. Even as a little baby, she just was always this. I knew she was gonna be like me.
She spoke her mind. She was gonna say whatever. She was always a life party. Super funny.
Just her being here, I could still hear her voice. I could still hear her saying "Ma" in her voice. Just her presence. When I say she was larger than life, Ashley was larger than life. I miss everything about her.
The victim in this case is 34-year-old Ashley Fowler from Jacksonville, Florida.
I was in the bathroom taking a shower, so it's not like I ever got a goodbye or anything when she left out. Didn't hear from her on the 1st, and I got the call on the 2nd, so it's not a lot to tell. There was no goodbyes because who knew what was gonna happen.
We arrived on scene, my team and I remember patrol officers kind of was saying they seen blood in the house.
And I recall walking up to the window and seeing the victim who was underneath a pile of some misplaced furniture, clothing items, things of that nature.
The house was occupied by a female named Tara James. Her roommate, Otis Tucker, did not let her in the house when she came home. And she said that she banged and banged on the door. Otis finally came to the door. So she went in and took a shower. She said she came back out, and that's when she noticed blood on the floor, blood on the wall.
It's one of those things that I don't think I'll ever forget. I've been to a lot of homicide scenes. One of the first things that we saw was what appeared to be a tooth laying close by the door. And from there, it was just kind of a horrific scene. There was blood on the walls, and it was obvious that there had been a significant struggle inside the apartment.
It was told to us by detectives in Jacksonville that Otis met Ashley Fowler on November 1st, the same day that they had hit each other up on a dating website. Hours later, Ashley was with Otis in the apartment that he shared with Tara, and he killed her. Otis killed her by wrapping a HDMI cable around her neck and beating her with a hammer. And I know investigators say it was a brutal attack. But Otis wasn't hard to find. In fact, the SWAT team found him just down the street. He had Ashley Fowler's book bags with items including the murder weapon inside.
We took Miss Tara James, down to the Police Memorial Building, and we conducted an interview with her. And that's when she told us how long she has known him. They're from Virginia. She said that he was in jail for choking a girl, and she did tell me he may have something to do with a missing girl in Virginia. It didn't register at all, no.
Well, surprising and brazenly to detectives in Jacksonville, they learned that Otis, once he left the homicide scene of Ashley Fowler, he searched for a bus ticket and Google searched Keeshae Jacobs' name.
He said if we gave him crack cocaine, he'll tell us anything we needed to know. He even wrote it on a piece of paper. So that lets us know that he had something to tell us. if you wanted crack cocaine. You had something you wanted to tell him. Of course, we didn't give him any crack cocaine, but he asked us for some. How you get all the marks and scratches on you, man? What happened? One of the biggest pieces was as I put her picture down, I let him see us. Don't look familiar, man. He would continue to stare at it, which he did. So that let us know he did. If he didn't, I would have put a random picture down of someone else that had been killed. He would have told me, oh, I didn't do that. But the fact that he marveled his work, he liked his work, that's why he continued to stare at it for about an hour.
From the beginning of this case and learning his history and just how egregious this case was, it was a case that our office decided was worthy of seeking the death penalty. We did the indictment process to indict him for first-degree murder, but ultimately he pled up to the judge and was exposed to up to life in prison, which was, was a decision that our office had to really contemplate if that's what we were comfortable with, because it was a case that we thought was worth death. But those types of decisions are not just ours. We communicate with the victim's family, and they did not want to go through the trial process. They wanted him to be locked away forever. So doing a plea up, we knew that we could secure that outcome.
One thing I got from this whole situation is don't think it can't happen to you. Like, I never thought I would call her. My sister was killed by somebody who's been killed multiple people, basically a serial killer. That's never been on something that you ever think about in your life. So it's the most random thing ever.
Well, she did what Virginia refused to do, and she called a killer. The kids are okay. Otis is put away. You can rest, baby.
Now the case has been assigned, or had been assigned, to cold case detectives George Wade and Clarence Key. They decided to make a trip down into Florida to see if they could talk to Otis while he was in prison.
So with that, we came away, and he did talk to us, and we walked away from that meeting, and he said, I can answer the question that you want. I can give you the answer to the question that you want. And that was, where's Keeshae's body? What happened to her? So we went away from that meeting, not with any information at all to actually bring any resolution to the case for the family, but we had enough to go back and relook at the case again. From that, we came up with an idea of, by him saying and having concern and feelings for not seeing his father for the rest of his life, that we try to reach out to his father, see if he would cooperate and maybe assist us in talking to his son. That, and also that we could provide him with the legal papers to show him that, hey, the proffer letter was good. If he did talk to us, that we weren't looking to try to convict him of any other crimes.
It's going on 8 years. And I'm just pleading to you, parent to parent.
The bonding of those two is what made Otis's father come to the rationale of, yeah, I'll assist y'all. But he did tell us during that conversation before we left that he said, I'm going to do this for the mother. I'm not doing this for y'all, meaning law enforcement, I guess. And at that point, we really didn't care who he did it for, as long as we got the truth. That's all we were looking for.
Walk up, chair.
You just want to tell us what happened? I mean, in your own words?
I woke up. I go over to grab her. The first thing in the morning. Thinking, okay, we'll mess around again in the morning. When I grabbed her, she didn't feel right, like she felt cold. And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm shaking her, she ain't coming to. That's when I realized what had happened in the middle of the night. She'd overdosed on her purpose.
I mean, that to me, in my mind, shows that he had some other involvement in her death. He's saying that he was the one that supplied her with the drugs that killed her, that he could be charged with supplying her with the drugs, and that was his concern. I don't know if I buy that 100%.
The fact of me being high as hell, like I said, I made a stupid decision. I was like, what do I do with a body? So I ended up taking her to the bathroom and went to Lowe's and got some snips and a hacksaw and cut her up. And so I just sat there for a couple of days trying to figure it out. And then one night, Hughes had came over because Tiana, this other dude that came over there, was like where she was at. And then they called the police, and Detective Hughes came over there and actually searched the house and came in there. And actually walked into the room where the bags were still at. But he didn't notice. I mean, they didn't look like there was anyone in the bags. So he didn't notice it. I mean, he was a vice detective. A homicide detective would have picked up on it because, like I said, a couple of days had passed, so there was that decomp smell.
Otis pretty much was allowed to control the investigation from the start. I mean, think about it. He called an investigator in, that detective went in, and he pulled the strings from the jump. If you believe Otis Tucker's confession, the really sad thing about this is while Tony Jacobs and the officers were standing outside and Detective Kevin Hughes was on the inside going through the house, and according to Tucker, he was standing right next to Keeshae's body. This thing could have been solved in a couple of days instead of 9 years. The facts about this case, if you think about it, they're alarming. I think the theme from all these detectives was they believed they had enough evidence to move forward with this.
Well, the evidence was that that's the last place she was seen.
There was a lot of blood found. It's not just a little dabble here. We're talking about blood-soaked cushions.
The rug, the blanket.
We knew that it was Keeshae's blood. We knew that she was in that house.
Definitely Otis was the last person that was seen with her. She was dropped off at Otis's house.
When detectives chased Otis up to Maryland.
When I found that SIM card with the photos on it.
And he admitted to having it.
There was 20 or more images of Keeshae and her family.
Why would he have her SIM card in his possession if he had nothing to do with her?
Statements from all the other victims.
So there was a lot of circumstantial evidence that police had already collected.
I thought after that evidence had come in that we were right there on the threshold of probable cause.
The evidence was presented to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office and they decided that there wasn't enough.
We reached out to Colette McKeechan, the Commonwealth Attorney in Richmond, asked her to do an on-camera interview. She declined. She said, well, you send me some questions and I'll answer those and send you a statement. And that's what happened. We asked the Commonwealth Attorney if she could explain why her and her team felt the evidence was too insufficient to charge or indict Otis Tucker in connection with Keeshae Jacobs' disappearance. And she says, the Commonwealth stands by its prior response. My office first became aware of the existence of a memory card in 2024 when Tucker made his statement while incarcerated in Florida. This case has been classified as an exceptionally closed missing person death investigation case by RPD. Despite years-long investigations by multiple detectives and review of the evidence by multiple prosecutors, there was never enough admissible evidence to charge anyone with crimes related to Keeshae's disappearance. Some examples of this issue follow. For instance, forensic examination was unable to connect all the blood spots to Keeshae. In addition, following inquiry from the RPD, the medical examiner's office was unable to say that the amount of blood left at the scene was consistent with a fatal loss of blood by any individual. There were multiple reported sightings of Keeshae alive in multiple places in Virginia and in other states that continued up until 2022, more than 6 years after her disappearance. A second suspect could not be eliminated. Suspect number 2 was calling and texting and speaking with Keeshae right up to the time period she was last seen alive. He lied to police on several occasions about calling and texting her. He also claimed he did not know her. He allegedly told 2 people that he killed Keeshae and disposed of her body. We also don't know how many other people and possible suspects were in the residence with her and Tucker, or if anyone showed up after her arrival. There are still many outstanding questions from a legal perspective.
Commonwealth attorneys want to win cases, but your number one job as a probation officer, your number one job as a Commonwealth attorney, and your number one job as a police officer is to protect the public.
There is no reason why you're in that position to help people. You're not protecting the victims. You protected Otis, knowing he was already in trouble for possibly raping and abducting another woman, probably like a week before Keeshae.
And the court systems, to me, is what causes people to keep from committing crimes, such as a parent disciplining their son in different ways. So, the more you can get away with, the more crime is going to be committed.
Compartmentalize this stuff. For 9 years, I had faithfully met with her and told her daughter's story. And for this to be the outcome is disappointing.
That breaks my heart that there's a family that's not going to receive their loved one back. That probably shouldn't have been on the street to begin with.
I've given numerous notifications in the past, but that was one of the toughest notifications that I had to give, and it was totally gut-wrenching.
The only thing different we could have done was find the body. We couldn't give Otis any more time in the penitentiary. We couldn't do anything. We could have given a proper burial for the remains. But other than that, we did get resolved, and we did find out the answer to what happened to Keeshae.
I don't know, but in my heart of heart, I don't feel like she's gone. Maybe because his story didn't add up. I don't have the closure.
I feel bad for her. I mean, I think part of it is that until you bring me my daughter's remains, I'm not gonna, you know, as a parent, I'm not gonna believe anything someone tells me about her disappearance, you know? And knowing that someone threw her away like trash, as a father, man, that hurts my heart, you know?
Closure has now come, but it comes in a way that looks antithetical. It looks different.
You know, this is a mom who has been through the unthinkable.
Miss Jacobs, I'll tell you what, for anything, and especially Keeshae and her other son, you want her in your corner.
So we celebrate you, lady. For every flyer that you posted, for every newspaper article that you spoke to.
What I tell people, period, there's no better advocate for your family member than you, because you love them. If it don't sound right, ask questions. Keep asking questions. I don't care if it gets on their nerves. They can't tell you to shut up or leave you alone. You just keep yelling at the top of your lungs until you feel like you're getting the justice that you deserve. Don't settle for nothing. You have a voice. I'm still fighting for Keeshae, and I'm not giving up. Everything needs to be urgent in finding these kids.
Make sure you tell them that you love them as often as you can, because tomorrow's not promised.
I am thankful that Wade and Key did go that extra mile for me. And they didn't stop. Y'all, reopen the case. But believing in me and believing in Keeshae and giving me this opportunity to tell my story and put Keeshae's story out there. So thank y'all.